Welcome. Today we're embarking on an extensive exploration of a life whose music became, well, a global rallying cry. Robert Nesta Marley, known to everyone as Bob Marley.
Yes, and our session is dedicated to really meticulously sifting through the source material you've provided.
Our goal is to extract the most vital, the most contextual knowledge about his career, his identity, and of course his monumental global impact.
Exactly. This isn't just a review of his music, it's an effort to understand the intellectual, the spiritual, and the political engine that really drove his entire movement.
And we are structuring this analysis to give you a clear, comprehensive understanding.
We'll be charting his career chronologically, analyzing his pivotal role as a Rastafarian icon, and thoroughly examining the high-stakes implications of his political activism.
And also detailing the circumstances of his untimely death.
It's vital to establish the magnitude of his influence right from the very start. I mean, he was a pioneer. He forged the sounds of reggae, ska, and rocksteady.
And he remains the global standard bearer for Jamaican music and identity.
To put a number on it, just to frame this commercially, he's one of the best-selling music artists of all time.
Over 75 million records sold.
Yes. Confirmed estimates place his sales at over 75 million records worldwide. That's an astronomical figure.
It really is. It establishes the scope of this phenomenon. So let's begin by uncovering the roots of this legacy, tracing his foundations and the very genesis of his unique sound.
Let's do it.
So Bob Marley's life began on February 6, 1945, in a very specific place, 9 Mile, in St. Ann Parish, Jamaica.
Right, on his maternal grandfather's farm. And the details surrounding his birth, they reveal a kind of foundational complexity to his identity.
Particularly around his parentage, right?
Absolutely. His father was Norval Sinclair Marley, a white Jamaican of Welsh ancestry, born way back around 1881.
So at the time of Bob's birth, Norval was what, about 64 years old?
Around 64, yes. He was working locally, supervising land that was reserved for war veteran housing.
And his mother was Cedella Malcolm, an 18-year-old Afro-Jamaican woman.
That enormous age disparity and the profound difference in their racial and social backgrounds, it created a really complicated dynamic for young Bob.
The sources confirmed Norval offered minimal financial support, didn't he?
Minimal. And he maintained a very irregular, distant presence in Bob and Cedella's lives.
And then, compounding all this instability, Norval died when Bob was only 12 years old.
Right. And it's fascinating how biographical details can get intertwined with mythology over time.
You mean the claims about the Marley surname?
Exactly. Some of Norval's cousins later tried to claim a speculative Syrian Jewish origin for the Marley surname, but biographers have pretty much refuted that claim.
So the key thing from this period is that his sense of self was formed without a stable paternal figure.
Which pushed his foundational influences toward his community and, of course, his mother's side of the family.
And that search for community and identity, it was really catapulted forward when he moved.
At age 12, yes. Marley and his mother relocated from that rural setting of 9 Mile to the intense urban landscape of Kingston.
Specifically, the Trenchtown section. Was this move really the point where his musical destiny was sealed?
I think you could say it was the necessary crucible for his career. Absolutely. Trenchtown wasn't just a neighborhood, it was a cultural incubator.
A place where people lived in close quarters, sharing dreams and struggles.
And he lived in the same house with Neville Livingston.
The man who would later become Bunny Wailer.
That's right. And this cramped, vibrant environment of Trenchtown, it just intensified their shared musical exploration.
So this community exposed them to the local music scene, but also to outside forces.
Powerful external forces, primarily rhythm and blues, beamed in from U.S. radio stations, which provided the harmonic foundation for their early sound.
So Trenchtown really forged those essential collaborations. And we see the group's name changing over time, sort of mirroring their artistic development.
The Teenagers, the Wailing Rude Boys, the Wailing Wailers.
And finally, just the Wailers.
Yeah.
And this core dynamic stabilized around Marley, Bunny Wailer, and Peter Tosh.
But it also involved key early figures like Junior Braithwaite, Beverly Kelso, and Sherry Smith at various stages.
And they didn't just arrive fully formed, did they?
Oh, not at all. The development of their craft, both vocal and instrumental, was heavily dependent on key mentors within the neighborhood.
Like Joe Higgs.
Joe Higgs, yes. From the successful vocal act, Higgs and Wilson. He lived nearby and took them under his wing.
And initially, the Wailers were focused just on vocal harmonies, right? Like a doo-wop group.
Exactly. They aspired to be a tight R&B style vocal group. It was Higgs who took the foundational step of helping them refine those arrangements.
And crucially, he started teaching Marley how to play the guitar.
An instrument that would come to define his sound for the rest of his career.
Now, before achieving major success, Marley tested the waters solo.
He did. In February 1962, he made his very first studio recordings for a local producer, Leslie Kong, at Federal Studios.
These were crucial early tracks, including Judge Not and One Cup of Coffee.
Right, and that latter one was released under the pseudonym Bobby Martell, a slightly Americanized name.
Those early cuts were exploratory, but the definitive breakthrough came soon after, when they signed with Coxsone Dodd's legendary Studio One label.
And in February 1964, their single Simmer Down just exploded.
It became a Jamaican #1 hit.
Selling an estimated 70,000 copies. This was a colossal number for the Jamaican market at that time.
It instantly established them as leaders of this rising musical wave.
And at this point, the genre was still in transition, wasn't it? It was somewhere between the quick pace of ska and the slightly slower, smoother, rock-steady rhythm.
Right, and following this huge local hit, the trio had a predictable but unfortunate disagreement with Dodd.
Over finances and control, as usual.
And this propelled them into their next, highly consequential, albeit short-lived, partnership.
Working with producer Lee Scratch Perry and his studio band, The Upsetters.
And this alliance, which started in 1968, is often cited by critics as the period that produced their best work.
Their most raw, inventive, and structurally influential work, I'd say. Perry was a true genius of sound. He helped them deepen the political and spiritual themes in their writing.
He also introduced groundbreaking studio techniques.
Yes, but it's a classic story of artistic alchemy running headlong into business reality.
So despite the intense artistic success, the partnership dissolved.
Over severe disputes, yes. All about the assignment and ownership of recording rights and royalties. They did collaborate again intermittently, but that core working relationship was irreparably broken.
So as the 1960s transitioned into the 1970s, the sources make it very clear that the music scene in Jamaica underwent a dramatic shift.
A structural shift, definitely. The rapid, upbeat rhythm of ska began to decelerate.
And that deceleration was essential.
It was. The musical mood was changing from that celebratory energy of independence-era ska towards something slower, more introspective, more meditative.
Driven partly by the economic struggles and political turmoil in the ghettos.
The sources describe the new sound as a slow, steady, ticking rhythm.
The very rhythm that defines early reggae.
And the term itself was first codified in the title of the Maidels' 1968 song, Do the Reggae.
Marley and the Wailers were right at the forefront of this evolution, which is clear in their 1969 collaboration with Leslie Kong for The Best of the Wailers.
It is.
So what specifically defines the sonic difference between those late-era Wailers tracks and their earlier ska material?
Well, the instrumentation changed profoundly. In ska, the arrangement was typically dense, with brass sections.
Lively trumpets and saxophones playing short, staccato bursts.
Exactly. In the new reggae sound, those instruments were stripped way back. Often, they vanished entirely.
And the instrumental focus shifted almost completely to the electric guitar.
Which took over the syncopated rhythm roll, delivering these sharp chopping chords on the upbeat.
It gave the music a cleaner, more resonant, and arguably more internationally palatable sound.
And this constant refinement was part of a larger strategy, wasn't it? Breaking into the lucrative American and European markets.
And that leads directly to a fascinating point in the sources. The overt attempts the Wailers made to tailor their sound for commercial success.
Between 1968 and 1972, working with JAD Records, they were explicitly trying to commercialize their music.
The detail about the three-day jam session in the Bronx with songwriter Jimmy Norman in 1968 is highly revealing about Marley's ambition.
Oh, that session is a genuine historical goldmine. It really exposes the inner workings of Marley's early commercial aspirations.
Which sometimes conflicted with his later, more radical image.
For sure. The resulting 24-minute tape reveals Marley experimenting wildly outside of the roots reggae sound he would later perfect.
He dove straight into American popular music conventions.
Trying out styles like doo-wop on tracks such as Stay With Me, and using that gentle, orchestrated style of 1960s slow love songs on Splish for My Splash.
So he was explicitly trying to create tracks that sounded familiar to U.S. pop radio listeners.
It sounds almost like an alter ego, doesn't it? A version of Bob Marley who wasn't quite ready to embrace the political weight of Rastafari fully.
Instead, trying to make it as a conventional pop star.
Exactly. Bunny Wailer later tried to dismiss these tracks as just demos for record companies to listen to.
But they underscore a crucial phase. Marley was incredibly adaptable and intensely ambitious.
He understood that pure, unadulterated Jamaican music was a hard sell internationally. He was testing the limits of what he could change about his sound while keeping his voice and essence intact.
And this commercial drive was what eventually landed him in London in 1972.
Yes, where he was residing temporarily in Ridgemount Gardens just before the big break.
And that big break arrived when he signed with Island Records later in 1972. It happened somewhat by accident, didn't it?
It did, after touring the UK with the soul singer Johnny Nash. They initially met Chris Blackwell of Island Records to talk about overdue royalties.
And Blackwell, a visionary strategist, saw a gaping hole in his roster.
His top reggae artist, Jimmy Cliff, had just departed. And Blackwell wasn't just looking for a replacement that would appeal to the existing reggae fan base.
He was aiming squarely at the rock audience.
He famously recognized the rebel music connection between rock and the Wailers' political stance. He needed a charismatic figure.
And when Marley entered the room, Blackwell immediately saw the image he needed to market Jamaican music globally.
He didn't offer a traditional contract. He offered a hefty £4,000 advance.
Which was a significant sum back then.
Huge, maybe around £26,000 in today's money. And it was to record an album with the understanding that they would be treated like a rock act.
The outcome was Catch a Fire in 1973, which just changed everything for reggae as an international art form.
Catch a Fire was a paradigm shift because it was the first time a reggae band was afforded the technical luxuries usually reserved for rock superstars.
They recorded it on 8-track, accessing state-of-the-art studio technology.
But the real artistry was in Blackwell's intervention. He realized that the traditional Jamaican mix, which emphasized heavy, rumbling bass, would sound muddy and foreign to international rock listeners.
So he actively shaped the mix.
He tempered the bass and restructured many arrangements, pushing them toward what he called more of a drifting, hypnotic type feel than a reggae rhythm.
He essentially smothered the edges just enough for Western ears to accept the revolutionary core.
And he packaged it as rock, too, ensuring it sat alongside Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd in record stores.
That unique Zippo lighter lift-top packaging was a branding masterstroke.
Absolutely. It signaled that this was not world music or some niche import. This was a serious, compelling rock album.
While the initial sales were modest, around 14,000 units, the critical reception was overwhelmingly positive.
It established the template, and this was followed rapidly by Burnin' later in 1973, which featured the track I Shot the Sheriff.
And it was that track that created the explosive moment of global recognition thanks to an unexpected intermediary.
Eric Clapton. His guitarist, George Terry, was highly impressed by the album and urged Clapton to cover it.
And Clapton, who was looking for a return to form, decided to record it.
The effect was instantaneous and massive. Clapton's version became his first U.S. hit since Layla,
hitting #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in September 1974.
The significance of that cannot be overstated. It instantly introduced millions of mainstream rock listeners across North America and Europe to the name Bob Marley. This was the moment he truly broke into the global consciousness.
Despite this sudden ascension, though, the original Wailers trio fractured in 1974.
That's right. Peter Tosh and Bunny Wailer decided to pursue solo careers. But Marley forged ahead, keeping the name Bob Marley and the Wailers.
And he quickly assembled what many consider the definitive touring band.
Anchored by that magnificent rhythm section of the Barrett brothers, Carlton and Aston Family Man, on drums and bass.
Complemented by the I3s, a trio of powerful female backing vocalists, which included his wife Rita.
And interestingly, Marley's very first international hit that originated outside of Jamaica came not from a studio recording, but from a live performance.
The 1975 version of No Woman, No Cry from the live album.
Yes, which just perfectly captured the energy of his concerts. This momentum culminated in the 1976 album Rastafari Vibration.
And that finally secured his U.S. breakthrough, reaching the top 50 of the Billboard Soul charts. The political intensity in Jamaica during the mid-1970s was extreme, and Marley, just by his mere presence and fame, became an unavoidable political force.
He did. And this leads us to one of the most harrowing events of his life, the assassination attempt in December 1976.
The context of this violence It demands a deeper analysis.
It absolutely does. The island was deeply polarized, experiencing severe political violence between supporters of the ruling People's National Party, or PNP,
Led by the socialist Michael Manley.
and the opposing Jamaica Labour Party, the JLP, led by Edward Seaga. These two factions were often associated with powerful, warring street gangs in Kingston's ghettos.
And Prime Minister Manley organized the Smile Jamaica Free Concert.
Yes, scheduled for December 5, 1976, as a desperate attempt to use music and culture to temporarily ease these deadly tensions.
And Marley chose to participate, a decision that made him an immediate target. We really have to pause here and convey the appropriate sympathy for the sheer violence he and his associates suffered.
It is genuinely tragic. On December 3rd, just 2 days before the concert, unknown gunmen stormed Marley's home.
The sources are definitive. The attack was believed to be politically motivated.
Aimed at silencing a powerful, unifying voice. Bob Marley, his wife Rita, and manager Don Taylor were all shot and wounded.
Rita and Taylor suffered serious injuries.
Though not fatal, thankfully. Bob sustained minor but frightening wounds to his chest and arm.
To think that a man committed to peace and unity would face such mortal danger simply for attempting to perform? It's appalling.
It is, but what stands out most profoundly is Marley's absolute determination in the face of this immediate threat.
His refusal to back down became the stuff of legend.
2 days after being shot, still injured, Marley walked onto the stage for the Smile Jamaica concert. He performed before an immense crowd of 80,000 people.
And due to the danger, some of his usual band members were in hiding.
So the group Zap Pow had to act as his backup band for the performance. When he was asked why he risked his life to perform, he reportedly said, "The people who are trying to make this world worse are not taking a day off. How can I?"
That defiance led directly to a period of necessary self-imposed exile.
Yes. Following the performance, Marley understood that remaining in Jamaica was just too dangerous. He left the country at the end of 1976.
He initially spent a month recovering and writing at Chris Blackwell's Compass Point Studios in the Bahamas.
Before settling in London, he spent 2 years in England, and this period of exile proved to be immensely creative.
Resulting in two of his most successful albums, Exodus in '77 and Kaya in '78.
Exodus was just a phenomenal global statement.
What made it resonate so strongly, particularly in the UK?
Musically, Exodus continued the evolution started by Blackwell. It incorporated more sophisticated elements of blues, soul, and British rock, reflecting the London environment.
Critically, it captured the zeitgeist.
It was a cultural juggernaut. It remained on the British album charts for an astonishing 56 consecutive weeks.
And it produced massive UK hits.
The title track, Exodus, and the universally recognized singles Waiting in Vain, Jamming, and One Love.
Which famously interpolates the melody of Curtis Mayfield's People Get Ready.
That's the one. It's also worth noting that his time in London wasn't entirely smooth. He did face minor legal trouble, resulting in an arrest and conviction for possession of a small quantity of cannabis.
Underscoring his public adherence to his faith's practices.
Right. But despite the safety of exile, his heart remained in Jamaica.
So he returned in 1978 for what remains one of the most celebrated moments of political activism in music history. The One Love Things concert.
This was yet another high-stakes attempt to quell the violence, once again organized in the hope of uniting the warring PNP and JLP political factions.
And as Marley neared the conclusion of his powerful set, he took an extraordinary, unscripted action.
He requested that both Michael Manley, the current head of state, and Edward Seaga, his political opposition, come forward and join hands on stage.
A gesture of peace.
The sources describe the electric, palpable tension and the sheer moral authority it took for a musician to command national political rivals to publicly demonstrate unity.
This moment crystallized his role, not just a singer, but a legitimate diplomatic force.
And even after that act of unity, his political work continued through his music, particularly his commitment to Pan-African struggles,
which became the central theme of his subsequent albums.
His 1979 album, Survival, is described as defiant and incredibly politically charged. The entire record served as a powerful declaration of solidarity with liberation movements across the African continent.
Tracks like Zimbabwe, Africa Unite, and Wake Up and Live.
They provided anthems for those fighting against colonial rule and oppression, and this activism wasn't confined to the studio.
He performed at the Amandla Festival in Boston in July 1979.
specifically demonstrating his fierce opposition to South African apartheid, a theme he had explored years earlier in the 1976 song War.
Which adapts the speech by Haile Selassie III.
Correct, and this commitment culminated in his significant invitation to perform at Zimbabwe's Independence Day celebration in April 1980, marking the end of white minority rule.
To truly grasp the intensity of Marley's activism and the profound messaging in his music, we have to fully explore the foundation of his beliefs, the Rastafari movement.
Marley was an extraordinary global advocate for Rastafari. The culture and theology of the movement are inextricably linked to the creation of reggae,
He was instrumental in globalizing key Rastafari beliefs.
particularly the reverence of Haile Selassie I, the former emperor of Ethiopia, whom Rastafarians regard as Yah.
The incarnation of God on earth.
And this reverence is rooted in Selassie's defiance against colonialism and his symbolic role as a figure of African majesty.
It often comes as a surprise, though, to those who only know his Rasta image, that he converted religions late in life.
It is a critical, often overlooked historical detail. Shortly before his death, Marley converted to Ethiopian Orthodox Christianity,
He was baptized by Archbishop Abuna Yesahak on November 4, 1980.
receiving the Ethiopian Orthodox baptismal name Burhan Selassie, which translates to Light of the Trinity,
This conversion demonstrated a final spiritual move.
aligning with the core Christian roots of the figure Rastafarians worshipped, confirming his lifelong search for spiritual peace and alignment.
And central to Rastafari practice, and iconic to Marley's public image, is the ceremonial use of cannabis, or ganja.
Marley was an unwavering supporter of cannabis legalization. He viewed it strictly as a sacrament, an aid to profound spiritual meditation.
A tool for gaining wisdom, rather than a purely recreational drug.
He had started using it after converting from Catholicism in 1966, and his articulation of this belief is so powerful and clear.
When you smoke herb reveal yourself to
All the
you.
wickedness you do, the herb reveal itself to yourself, your conscience, show up yourself clear, because herb make you meditate is only a natural thing and it grow like a tree.
He viewed its use as absolutely vital for religious growth and achieving a closer connection with Jah.
And his faith clearly provided the entire philosophical framework for his intense political commitment to Pan-Africanism.
The belief in the necessary unity of African people worldwide.
Absolutely. His political identity was an extension of his religious one. The philosophy of Marcus Garvey, which preached unity and self-reliance for the African diaspora, was a substantial inspiration for Marley.
He interpreted the independence movements across Africa as victories for all people of African descent globally.
And he used his music to address this political theology, citing Babylon, the Rastafari term for the oppressive Western imperialist social system, as the target.
His songs are layered with this anti-imperialist Pan-Africanist message.
Zimbabwe, Exodus, Survival, Black Man Redemption, all prominent examples, and most famously, Redemption Song draws its influence directly from a powerful 1937 speech given by Marcus Garvey.
Shifting to his family life, the sources paint a picture of an expansive personal world. He married Rita Anderson in 1966.
His family life was extensive, reflecting the communal structures often present in Jamaica. The official Bob Marley website confirms 11 children.
And this count includes 3 children born to Rita, plus 2 from her previous relationships whom he adopted.
Yes, adopted and gave the Marley name, as well as several other children with various partners.
The legacy continues today through his musical grandchildren like Skip Marley and Y.G. Marley.
And even in the world of sports, with the American football player Nico Marley.
Now, beyond his spiritual and musical dedication, he maintained one major unifying private passion that influenced his life and personnel choices deeply: football.
Soccer, yes. Football wasn't just a hobby for him. It was a fundamental element of his daily routine and social life.
He played constantly, didn't he?
Whenever and wherever he could find space, whether it was a parking lot or a field, he loved the sport and supported specific teams.
Notably, the Brazilian club, Santos, and its star, Pelé.
And the English club, Tottenham Hotspur. His affinity for the game was so strong that in the 1970s, he hired a professional player, Alan Skillcole, to be his tour manager.
I remember he famously told the journalist that if you wanted to know him, you had to play football against him and the Wailers.
That's right. And we have to spend a moment on the marvelous, slightly eccentric anecdote regarding his choice of German automobiles.
Ah, the BMWs.
It's the perfect encapsulation of his unique blend of confidence and humor. He owned 2, a 1602 and a 2500 model.
And when questioned about his choice of luxury German cars, He claimed he purchased them not for the status or engineering.
But because he believed the initials BMW actually stood for Bob Marley and the Wailers.
It's a great insight into how he constantly wove his identity, his band, and his aspirations into the fabric of the world around him. Now we have to address the difficult and tragic culmination of his life. In July 1977, Marley was diagnosed with cancer.
But the nature and origin of this diagnosis are medically and historically significant. He was diagnosed with aclaral lentiginous melanoma,
A rare but aggressive form of skin cancer that appeared under the nail of his right big toe.
and the sources highlight an extremely painful point of context here. This specific type of melanoma is actually the most common variety found in people with dark skin.
Yet, at the time, it was not commonly recognized or detailed in mainstream Western medical textbooks.
And this lack of awareness resulted in a severe diagnostic delay. Marley had to consult 2 different doctors before a biopsy was finally ordered, confirming the cancer.
This delay, combined with the aggressive nature of the disease, led doctors to advise an immediate and radical treatment.
Amputation of the toe, which he famously refused.
He cited his strong religious beliefs, which included scriptural references against cutting the body.
That was the primary reason, yes. But we also have to recognize the practical reality. Amputation would have severely hindered his ability to perform. It would have impacted his career at its absolute peak.
So instead of amputation, the medical team performed a localized excision.
They removed the nail on the nail bed and covered the area with a skin graft taken from his thigh.
And it's important to clarify, isn't it, that contrary to the urban legends, the melanoma was found to be a symptom of already existing internal cancer.
Yes, not simply caused by a football injury.
Despite the prognosis and the surgery, Marley did not slow down. He continued to tour and record globally.
His dedication was relentless. Uprising in 1980 was his final studio album released during his lifetime.
And the Uprising tour was immense. It really demonstrated his massive global reach.
He performed his biggest concert ever to a staggering 100,000 people at San Siro Stadium in Milan.
His final outdoor concert took place on July 6, 1980, in Dublin, Ireland.
The tour continued into the U.S., but the unchecked disease was reaching its final devastating stage in September 1980.
The collapse in Central Park marked the final terrible turning point.
On September 21st, 1980, while jogging in Central Park in New York, Marley collapsed.
Immediate hospitalization and tests delivered the crushing news.
The cancer had spread aggressively. It had metastasized widely to his brain, his lungs, and his liver.
Incredibly, his very last public concert occurred just 2 days later at the Stanley Theater in Pittsburgh.
And his failing health forced the immediate cancellation of the remaining tour dates.
He then embarked on a desperate search for an alternative, non-conventional treatment path.
He sought experimental cancer treatment at the clinic run by Joseph Issels in Bavaria, Germany.
Issels' approach was highly controversial, wasn't it?
Very. It focused heavily on holistic therapies, avoidance of certain foods, based on the belief that cancer was rooted in environmental toxins and deficiencies.
For 8 months, Marley underwent this regimen.
Tragically, the treatment was unsuccessful in halting the aggressive advance of the cancer.
His final journey back toward his home in Jamaica was tragically interrupted.
As his health deteriorated rapidly during the flight back, the plane was diverted to Miami, Florida.
Robert Nesta Marley passed away there on May 11, 1981, at the young age of 36.
Due to the widespread metastasization of the cancer to his vital organs. In an incredibly poignant moment, his final words to his son Ziggy are recorded.
On your way up, take me up. On your way down, don't let me down.
The funeral that followed was a monumental event, marking his national significance.
He was accorded a state funeral in Jamaica on May 21st, 1981.
And the ceremony was a powerful blend of his recent spiritual journey and his lifelong Rastafari identity,
merging elements of Ethiopian orthodoxy with Rastafari tradition.
He was buried in a chapel near his birthplace in 9 Mile, and the contents placed in his casket serve as a perfect summary of his life.
His cherished red Gibson Les Paul guitar,
a Bible open to Psalm 23, and a stalk of cannabis placed there by his widow, Rita.
The eulogy delivered by Prime Minister Edward Seaga was exceptionally moving.
Seaga's words elevated Marley beyond a mere musician into a profound cultural force. He said, his voice was an omnipresent cry in our electronic world. Bob Marley was never seen. He was an experience which left an indelible imprint with each encounter.
Such a man cannot be erased from the mind. He is part of the collective consciousness of the nation.
That collective consciousness ensures his influence is stronger than ever.
Evidenced by his ongoing legacy and numerous posthumous honors.
His commercial afterlife is just unparalleled. Legend, the greatest hits album from 1984, is still the best-selling reggae album of all time.
And the honors are staggering. The Jamaican Order of Merit, induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Time magazine naming Exodus the Album of the Century in 1999, the Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award.
And Rolling Stone ranked him at number 11 on its 100 Greatest Artists list.
And the physical tributes, they reflect his global reach, crossing continents and cultures.
We see statues dedicated to him not just in Kingston, but also halfway around the world in Serbia.
And in New York City, the recognition is embedded in the streetscape, with a section of Church Avenue in Brooklyn codenamed Bob Marley Boulevard.
However, the sources also contain a potent, and I think necessary, critique of how the global market has often simplified and packaged this profound legacy.
That critique, notably from author Dave Thompson, is essential for a true understanding. Thompson lamented what he termed the pacification and extreme commercialization of Marley.
He wrote that the corporate machine has utterly emasculated the real Bob Marley,
arguing that the pervasive, smiling, benevolent image presented today often ignores the ghetto kid who dreamed of Che Guevara and the Black Panthers.
the man who believed in fighting for freedom and whose heroes were radical figures like James Brown and Muhammad Ali.
Thompson argues that while the commercial machine guaranteed his immortality, it simultaneously diminished the true depth of his radical activism, replacing the revolutionary with a benign, smiling icon.
Which serves as a final reminder that the towering figure we celebrate was, at his core, a potent and physically threatened political radical. Our thorough analysis of the source material confirms that Robert Nesta Marley was far more than just a musical genius.
He was a revolutionary spiritual and political figure whose influence extends across global politics, Pan-African thought, and culture.
His journey from the instability of 9 Mile to surviving an assassination attempt and uniting political rivals on stage is a testament to a life entirely driven by profound conviction.
That conviction is his most enduring legacy. It compels us to consider the capacity of music not merely as entertainment, but as a true catalyst for fundamental social and political change.
Marley used his platform and his global celebrity, often at tremendous personal risk, to demand peace, influence independent struggles, and challenge oppressive structures worldwide.
His story raises an important question for you to consider.
Yeah.
What contemporary musician possesses that rare combination of unyielding spiritual conviction and massive cultural capital necessary to directly challenge global power structures today in such an uncompromising and physically perilous way?
Thanks for listening.